In the words of Sandra Pupatalo, a Canadian politician, the effects of abuse are devastating and far-reaching. Domestic violence speaks many languages, has many colors, and lives in many different communities. You're watching NAPTIP On The Move. My name is Angela Agbegi. Our package today will enlighten you on domestic violence, the efforts of NAPTIP in the FCT, tips on parenting, and much more. Stay with NAPTIP On The Move.
One of the worst forms of violence against persons perpetrated by close relations, prevalent in the world. Anyone could be a victim, and every year, millions of people globally are victims of domestic violence.
Domestic violence is a pattern of abusive relationship that is used by one person targeted at another person, and this could be in the form of physical abuse, it could be psychological or emotional abuse, it could be sexual abuse, and even economic abuse. So domestic violence is not just devastating on the victim, it also affects families, it affects communities, and it also affects entire countries. So a country that is ravished by domestic violence definitely will not succeed as it should. And in Nigeria, all forms of domestic and sexual abuse has been criminalized by various laws, and the most recent and the most proactive and equitable law is the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act that was enacted in 2015.
The Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act stipulates penalties for perpetrators of domestic violence.
The Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act is only applicable in the FCT. So for this act to be applicable at the state level, the states will have to adopt it as law. And 35 states so far have been able to adopt the VAP Act as law. And this VAP Act or VAP law criminalizes all forms of domestic and sexual violence in public and private space. So it protects all persons, it protects women, it protects men, it protects boys, and it protects girls. So talking about the FCT, what I can say though is people are now aware of these issues. People are now able to recognize these red flags. People now know that domestic violence is evil, domestic violence is not normal, and should not be tolerated in all forms. And the boomerang effect of this is increased reportage.
NAPTIP receives more cases of domestic violence in the Federal Capital Territory.
In 2022, we received a total of 1,342 reported cases through walk-ins and through our 24 hours call center. Already in 2023, from January to April, we have received 260 reports through walk-ins and 133 reports through our call center. For 2022, the highest number of reports received was on spousal battery. Fast forward to 2023, in 4 months, the highest number of reports received still remains spousal battery. So that tells you that there is really a problem. And some of these cases are rather disturbing. I remember a case early this year that was reported by a woman who claimed that she had a bad dream, woke up, shared her dream with her husband, and the next thing, the husband branded her a witch and chased her out of the house after beating her. And she came to NAPTIP to seek for assistance. She wanted us to intervene. So we've seen incremental cases of spousal abuse, in the home, and there is so much government can do when it has to do with issues of domestic violence, because these are cases that happen within the home and within the family and within the community.
Prosecuting cases of domestic violence is not without its challenges.
The challenges that we face in prosecution of cases are usually unwillingness of victims to testify. And then we also have the issue of late reporting. In the case of sexual and gender-based violence, it is good that the victim reports on time. At the time that the evidence is still fresh, the evidence has not been tampered with. So when you give it a long time, we may find it difficult to collect all the necessary evidence to present before a court in order to secure conviction. So usually that is also a problem that we face in terms of prosecution.
However, the agency is securing convictions in cases of domestic violence.
In 2022, we were able to secure 4 convictions. We have about 84 cases in various courts here in the FCT. And last year, December, we were also able to secure a conviction in Sokoto State. And you might wonder why Sokoto State, considering the fact that NAPTIP only implements the VAP Act in the FCT. So last year we were able to get fiat from the Attorney General of Sokoto State, which basically means giving us authority to prosecute cases under their Violence Against Persons Prohibition law, their Child's Right law, and their Administration of Criminal Justice law. So last year, the Attorney General has granted NAPTIP fiat, which is why we were able to secure that 1 conviction in Sokoto. And already in 2023, we've secured additional 3 convictions of rape in the same Sokoto. And in the FCT, we've also secured 2 convictions of rape, very, extremely quality convictions. And just some weeks ago, we also approached the Attorney General of Nasarawa State to also grant us this same fiat so that we can prosecute cases in Nasarawa State, because we also get cases from Nasarawa. There's this invisible border between FCT and Nasarawa. Just because it happened in Nyanya, we'll say, oh, sorry, we can't assist you. So there is this very exciting alignment of the criminal justice system when it has to do with issues of sexual and gender-based violence. So Judges are now, beginning to give extremely stiff penalties. They are beginning to also issue compensations to victims. So this is very exciting.
The agency employs its strategies of policy, protection, prevention, prosecution and partnership in curbing the incidence of domestic violence in the Federal Capital Territory.
The agency is collaborating recently with other government and non-governmental agencies to fight sexual and gender-based violence. The agency has been able to bring all the stakeholders together to make commitments to the fight against SGBV. The agency, through the Public Enlightenment Department, has been carrying out different activities to enlighten the public on the effects of SGBV. Every year, the agency is involved in the 16 days activism. The agency is at the forefront of the campaign against sexual and gender-based violence during the 16 days activism. And usually, it is during the 16 days activism that the VAP annual report is being presented.
The efforts of NAPTIP has informed an increase in reporting of cases.
We've also seen an increase in the physical abuse of children by their parents, by their guardians, and also abuse of domestic helps, mostly underage domestic helps. Just recently, we received a petition from a mother whose daughter was brutalized by her father. Like, it was a very, very disturbing and pathetic case. He actually stripped his daughter, his own daughter, he actually stripped his daughter naked in public, beat her up, dragged her, to the house and beat her, used all sorts of weapons in brutalizing her, and crowned it up with using a blade to shave her head. Then another new trend we noticed in 2023 is increased reportage of domestic violence from men. Yes, which is, believe me, fantastic. Men never used to report cases of domestic violence, and yes, men suffer abuse from their spouses. There are cases of women physically assaulting men. There are cases of women preventing men access to their shared property, whether it's their shared house or shared accommodation. We've seen cases of women also isolating men from their children. So we know that men are brought up or are taught to be tough, but domestic violence knows no boundary, even though we know that issues of domestic violence affect women more than it affects men. Men are in the minority, but I think it is important for men and boys to know that it is okay to talk about these issues. It is okay to report. And because of these cases, we now have a massive mental health crisis. When we talk to survivors or we talk to victims, there's something that usually sticks out during the counseling, which is their lack of zeal to leave. Some of them also share that they've had or are having suicidal thoughts. So in terms of mental health support, this is an area that we need to pay attention to as a country.
Global Parenting Initiative of the Oxford University develops programs on parenting support.
There are lots of people that have gone on to talk about how the violence they witnessed when they're growing up have had so much impact on their mental health. It's even led to depression in some cases. And the sad thing is that children who witness domestic violence, more often than not, they grow up to also become perpetrators of domestic violence, because they learn from what they witness that this is how to resolve conflict. So you find out that the cycle, unfortunately, the cycle of violence just continues. At the Global Parenting Initiative, our aim is to provide access to free evidence-based parenting support for all parents so they can raise their children to fulfill their learning potential and to prevent child trafficking, child sexual abuse, and child exploitation. So we want parents to have the skills that they need to raise their children to become to fulfill their potentials in life. How do we do this? First of all, we have parenting resources that we have been developing over the years, and so we have a suite of parenting programs called Parenting for Lifelong Health, and it's been developed through the years, or it was developed many years ago in collaboration with researchers from other universities and UN agencies like the WHO, UNICEF, and other organizations. It's actually a suite of 4 different parenting programs. We have Parenting for Lifelong Health for babies, Parenting for Lifelong Health for toddlers, Parenting for Lifelong Health for children, and Parenting for Lifelong Health for teens. And initially, these programs were delivered through in-person facilitation. In other words, facilitators would be trained, and they would go to a community, and over a period of 3 months, 12 to 14 weeks, deliver the program to parents and teenagers. And this would be, through weekly meetings. Every week, one curriculum, one model will be delivered.
The program can be accessed by all parents.
The Parenting for Lifelong Health program has been tested through randomized trials, and they've been found to be very effective in reducing child maltreatment, reducing violence against children, improving the mental health of both parents, caregivers, and children, reducing child misbehaviors, and even in fostering, a close bond between children and parents. Initially, the programs were delivered through in-person facilitation, but in the past few years, we have gone on to develop the digital versions of these programs, and we have 3 digital interventions. We have Parent Chat, which is sort of like a WhatsApp group. It's delivered through groups like a WhatsApp group. You can have a facilitator there with 12 to 15 parents, and every week a different module of the program is delivered. Parents have the time to ask questions, and the whole concept of this is, in addition to getting this information, you go back and practice. So whether it's with the in-person program or the digital interventions, parents are given tips to go back, practice at home. We have what is known as home practices. Then you can come back, provide feedback if you have questions, and then the facilitator could support you. So we have that Parent Chat. We also have what is known as Parent Text. And this, with the Parent Chat, of course, you need to have an Android phone, or because it has to be delivered through like a WhatsApp group or Telegram. But with Parent Text, we have the parenting tips delivered through regular phones, so you don't need to have an Android phone. You have an interactive chatbot there that delivers the parenting information. And then we have what is known as Parent App. And Parent App is the digital version of PLH for teens. So it's been developed for offline use. In other words, you can use it even when you don't have Wi-Fi or data. But of course, you need Wi-Fi or data to download it and for updates, but apart from that, you can use it. So it's been developed so people everywhere can use it easily, have access to this, and it has just the same content as the regular PLH for Teens program.
Here are a few tips on parenting.
Spend one-on-one time with your child. I think it's so important, and it can be very difficult to find time, but we need to prioritize it. You think, I want to give my child the very best in life. I need to work, maybe get a second job. I want to send them to the best of schools. I want to give them the best toys, buy the best clothes for them. These things are great, but they're not as important as investing time with your child. And when children grow up, they're not going to remember so much of those things you bought for them, but the time you spent with them would really, really matter. And spending time with your child communicates that you love them, that you value them, that, you know, they are precious to you. And through spending time with them, you can pass on the right values. But if you just leave them to raise themselves and you think it's enough to buy, you know, the right clothes, fancy toys, or just spend money on them, it's not going to make up for the time that you should have spent with them. Time to just relax with the child. It could be, you know, time to read to the child, but let the child decide the activity. Another tip I want to share is using praise to reinforce positive behavior. You know, all of us, I think, me, you, everybody, we love being praised. And imagine that you do something, I mean, even if you haven't done it perfectly, that someone says to you, wow, Isan, you did this. This is so lovely. Thank you for doing this. It's going to motivate you to do it again, to want to do better. But if you come home and let's say your child cooked jollof rice, there's too much pepper, or there isn't enough salt, and all you can think of is, okay, it is nice, but next time reduce the salt. There's too much salt in this food. What does it do? The child, you crush the child's spirit. The child is not so motivated. But if you just looked at it, I didn't tell you to do this, and you did it, you are amazing. You can use praise to reinforce whatever positive behavior that you see in your child. Establishing rules and routines is so important. It's really important to establish rules and routines for our children. Many times as parents, you know what you want your child to do, but you've never really sat down with the child to establish these rules. You have not said to the child, when you go out, I expect you to come home by 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. The child goes out, and then in your head you're thinking, it's getting dark. Where is this child? Where is this boy? Is he not home yet? And by the time the child gets back, you are already so upset, so furious, and you start yelling or hitting the child. But the truth is, you could have sat down with the child to establish rules. If you go out, I expect you to be home by this time. Or it could, or if you can't watch television until you've completed your homework. This is what you should do. But the point is that you should have rules, because you need to communicate rules, and because without that, it's really not fair to expect that the child will always know what is expected of them. And then if they break the rules or routines, there should be consequences.
Preventing domestic violence is a collective effort.
I would say that as a people, as a country, we must not get tired of talking about the issues of domestic violence. We need to consistently challenge social norms, cultural norms that make domestic violence fester in our society.
As NAPTIP continues to fight against domestic violence, the message for all is respect everyone, stop domestic violence. Every day, NAPTIP receives reports on all forms of violence against persons, diverse cases of domestic violence, rape, incest, physical abuse, especially child abuse. NAPTIP is leaving no stone unturned to ensure that victims are compensated and offenders severely punished. But NAPTIP needs a lot of support. The VAP Act will be most effective if all states adopt the Act as law. Then, victims shun the culture of silence and report to NAPTIP. Call NAPTIP today on 0703 000203 or the toll-free short code 627. NAPTIP, ensuring a human trafficking and violence-free nation.
We hope you learned something new. Our victim story segment is up next. Don't go away.
I am 30 years old for Kaduna State. They carry me come Abuja. I stay with one woman. I can't reach 1 week. My auntie sons in the night come meet me inside my room. So the son can't rape me. The next day I can't go school. I can't sleep for school. The second day I can't go. My auntie can ask me, what happen at this day I don dey sleep inside class. I come tell her see wetin my aunty son dey do me in the night. So she go report to my counselor inside school. My counselor go report to our principal inside school. Our principal go report for office. Help me come tell them. So our uncle come carry me for school. Come NAPTIP house here. NAPTIP, thank you as you rescued me.
For more inquiries and support, or to report cases of suspected human trafficking, violence against persons, and child abuse, please call NAPTIP hotline 0703 0000203 or the short code 627, or email us info@naptip.gov.ng. Visit our website www.naptip.gov.ng. Follow us on our social media platforms at NAPTIP Nigeria, or watch our videos on YouTube.
We can go on and on and on, but time will not permit. Till I come your way next week, don't forget to report cases of violence against persons, human trafficking, and child abuse. Thank you for watching, and do join us again same time next week. I'm Angela Agbegi. Bye for now.